Welcome to Talking with Famous People. I'm host Zachary. We have our famous person Eric here, and he's very excited to be on the show. First time. Uh,
Yeah, well, I saw your post on Reddit about being an INTP. Well, I can't decide. I think I might be ENTP. I'm not sure. Um, but anyway, regardless of that, I I I was excited to get. I'm just happy to be here.
right on. Well, so famous person Eric, tell us uh, regarding freedom of expression. Uh, is it just, and if it is, when does it become just to censor freedom of expression?
I don't think I think that it's important to make a distinction between speech which is a call to action and speech which is something else. So, for example, if I were to say to you, if you were carrying a heavy box and I were to hold the door open for you and say, go ahead, walk on out, and you're gonna walk now into the parking lot, and I say, it's good, you're clear, there's no cars coming. But there's actually a car coming, and he steps out in front of the car, and the car hits him. I go, ha ha ha, funny practical joke. I have not expressed myself in a fashion that is okay, and that would be a crime, I would say, if you were to do that.
So that would be a call to action.
Right. But most speech isn't that.
So so only words that are call to actions, right?
And it has to be quite a direct call to action, I think. For example, and I agree with the Supreme Court on this distinction that if that a general advocacy in favor of violence is totally acceptable. And we know that it's totally acceptable. Otherwise, politicians wouldn't be advocating for war. But what's not acceptable, generally considered to be not acceptable, is hey, everybody, let's go beat that bag up.
Yeah, that would be very explicit call to action or violence of some sorts.
And in that case, though, I would say it's a distinct situation from the one in which I tricked the guy into stepping in front of the car. Because in the latter situation, I don't believe that there's any cause to consider that speech not protected unless unless it's unless it's within earshot of the person to about whom it's talking. So, in other words, if it's a threat that the person hears and is going to feel intimidated by it, understandably, and it's a threat of force, then absolutely that needs to be considered just as bad. It's like extortion. Right? It's like violence. It doesn't have to. It never happens because you're forced into doing something else instead, right? The violence is still there. It's just been converted into coercion. Um, a threat of force is not acceptable. But if I threaten, if I'm not threatening you with force, but I'm trying to convince this group of people over here to go beat you up, you never know about it because you don't feel threatened at all. Um, but one of the people in the group goes and reports to the police, and you never get beaten up. To me, that's protected speech. And it's what we need to do is not try to quash that speech. We want to try to highlight examples of it as often as possible. So if I go and try to convince this group of people to beat you up, they should all post on Facebook about it and say, "What a douchebag." Because really, the only way the world really improves, we might successfully curtail one individual's bad behavior through laws that deter criminality. But what what really changes society is what is considered shameful.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, I think definitely. What I would think that'd be rooted in almost um, the cultural atmosphere of the society, you know, and but see that gets kind of tricky with so if you view freedom of speech as something freedom of expression as something based on an individual rights framework, right? So you have your own autonomy to your body and therefore property of your own body. Uh, so anything you make, such as like if a painter makes paintings, then obviously they that property owns them because it's an extension of themselves, yes. And anything that comes out of their mouth is an extension of themselves, right?
I don't think I think they own the painting because it's a physical object that they own.
Well, isn't that how do you mean? But isn't it the same thing?
No, because I don't believe that you can own an MP3 in the same way you can own an object.
Okay. Uh,
I think that the times have a different economy of ownership that is implicit to their nature and that ecosystem. And our attempt to codify that reality into legislation has been butchered horribly, and it's a disastrous mess. But that's working its way out naturally, as those things will, because because the notion of theft of digital media is a fiction. It inevitably works its way out one way or the other through the ecosystem. So you end up being able to get that stuff for free one way or the other. Like, well, maybe I can't get a free copy of whatever song is an MP3, but I can listen to it on YouTube anytime I want. And the the vision that once happened for the vision that was once very clear to record executives and stuff like that of a legislatively enforced world in which people were getting busted for violating digital rights, it just never manifested, right? They tried suing a couple of customers for pirating music, and I think they even won a court case or two. But by the time all that shit played out, then the record industry was just didn't have the resources anymore, and they were just vilified by everybody. And so then they sort of just changed their tune. And the unsatisfying thing is the truth never gets its decisive day of victory where it goes, see, I told you, fuckers. Because by the time everybody gets there, they forget that they once strongly advocated the exact opposite, despite your vehement objections. You know, it's fucking annoying as hell. I used to rant about the cops beating up black people all the time, and everybody thought I was fucking crazy.
and now there's an entire movement that's focused around that.
Yeah, and everyone's like, "Can you believe those crazy cops?" Like, you fucker, you don't even remember, do you? When I would tell you this shit, you'd roll your eyes at me and go, Eric, it's not like that. Jesus Christ. The
Well,
police are not like that. You were telling me this shit like 2 years ago, and today you're trying to tell me, and you're completely oblivious to the fact that your previous position was horribly, horribly wrong. Like, you don't learn anything from that. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I'm gonna hold my these unwarranted positions that I state in more skepticism from now on. That's the thing that annoys me.
so if we all right, so you distinguished or differentiated the idea of a physical property from so like a painting wouldn't be the same. You don't own a painting the same way as you own your body, right?
Right. Now, I do think that there ought to be somehow a setup, and it has. There are, the good news is there are plenty of ways in which you can legitimately claim or accomplish property rights on digital media without having to assert any digital media ownership claims beyond the realm of that legal fiction. So what I mean by that is like YouTube. Okay, the website definitely is owned by somebody. Now, my video may or may not be something that can functionally be owned by me. Probably not, because it's an MP4, which is a distinct file that can be duplicated very easily. It costs nothing to duplicate. So there's no harm to me from for to be had from by taking it from me. That's implicit to a property right. If I own something, it has to harm. There has to be some. I have to be able to notice when it's stolen. You know, let's say I had a MP3 on a website and said, "This MP3 is on this server. However, it is my property, and I am hereby forbidding you from downloading it. But you could if you click this link."
Then it's yeah.
The problem with that notion is, okay, I guess I could tell that it had been downloaded if I looked at statistics or something, but let's pretend I had statistics turned off for that page. Now, how would I know when it's stolen?
Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't be able to.
You couldn't, obviously, and so then how can I say it's my property?
That's a good point. Well, you said you have to be able to notice something stolen, right? Before you can own it. Well, let's look at it this way then. If if we differentiate, the idea of like owning something, physically, and then owning something like implicitly, for example, uh, would you say you own the art of painting, or the art of doing a particular activity, the art of cooking? Would that be something you own? That would be like your
I mean,
will
you
of
own your skills.
yeah. So yeah, the skills basically.
Yeah,
Uh,
you own your skills. To the extent that, yeah, well, okay, you own them. No, you you possess them. There's a
okay,
difference
so
between possess. You possess them, and you can't be dispossessed of them without violating your rights. But you can't violate your rights only by dispossessing you of them. It has to be indirect, right? Like, okay, I have the ability to play the guitar. You could dispossess me of my ability to play the guitar by cutting off my fingers. But you wouldn't really be dispossessing me of the ability to play the guitar. You'd be dispossessing me of my fingers. And then my fingers are necessary for me to use that ability to play the guitar. So it's on that level, you can't dispossess me of my skill directly.
well, okay, let's so earlier you said that there must be a you must identify the difference between like a call to action, for example, and then freedom of expression. Well, let's take the art of language then. Okay, the skill of being able to communicate. So when you get into that area, I feel like the call to action and the line between call to action and freedom of expression is very arbitrary because let's say for example something like blatant racism. Okay, so your possession of language would be if you said something that would be considered racist. So let's say something like very extreme. So if you said something like I think we should kill all white people, that would be a call to action, right?
No,
They wouldn't be. What about okay, so saying something like perhaps we should kill all white people would be it wouldn't be considered something you think should be censored.
certainly not. Even I'm sure we should kill all white people. I am 100% certain that we should kill all white people is not a call to action. And I remember I differentiate even further. I think call to actions are still protected speech, provided. I mean, I think they're still protected speech. I think the one thing that's not protected is is lying. Lying that results in harm is not protected.
Give me an example.
Well, the parking lot thing,
Oh, okay, yeah, I see.
right?
So you would be like
Yeah.
deceiving someone into stepping in front of traffic.
Or libel and slander are not protected. but I don't believe in the call to action, except insofar as like the parking lot thing or shouting fire in a crowded movie house is
But
the
once the
classic.
if a a meme, so to speak, of certain ideas like that, if it's spread out over, so let's say someone there's in a community, someone says that no, I think that all red frosting cakes should be abolished or something, you know, and then if the meme of that starts spreading around the society and the general consensus becomes that, wouldn't it then eventually lead to that kind of behavior where red frosting cakes would become abolished?
Well, if in fact the Time Wizard were so powerful that his time wizardry was exponentially better than anybody else's, so that the nearly infinite number of countervailing time spells that would ensue would have no impact whatsoever, then I suppose that would be the case. Well, that's what you're really talking about, is time wizardry. And here's the thing. When you are dealing with time objects, the the ecosystem of the time object is contained within the fractal meta system, meta ecosystem, okay, the fractal meta ecosystem, which is to say, look, we have this one little model. It's this area here, okay, that we're talking about. It's got its own pattern of taxonomy. The pattern of taxonomy then will be reflected infinitely in all directions in countless other models that can emerge from any object within the model or from any object within any other model. So, in other words, it's all about linking and parsing, linking and parsing, linking and parsing. That's what the fractal metasphere is, linking and parsing. So, it, it's like, okay, ask your question again so I can remember it.
Uh,
I remember where I started here
well,
on this little
I
train
think
of
we
thought.
were talking about like kind of like memes going through cultures and eventually leading to some sort of behavior
Oh,
because of a
right, that thing.
consensus of.
All right, so the thing is, it's we our reality is us converting an infinitely fluid and constantly moving mesh of intermesh of processes into a very complex turn-based object conditionality web. That's what reality is our conversion of something that's just blah, just fucking just everything happening, all everything changing constantly, with not a moment of not one still spot to stand or have any capacity to experience. To experience requires that we convert that fluid mush into an infinitely complex taxonomy of static objects that are representatives of bits of fractal multiverse.
The E&E is going strong. You're tying all of this in together right now.
Well, because it all fits now. It really is starting to come together. I really think like, oh, that guy fucking nailed it. That's right. But the thing is, I don't even know if this is that guy's idea or not, because I'm pretty sure I'm not. I'm pretty sure I'm not representing it correctly anyway. Because all I did was look at the first page of that thing. I didn't actually read anything in that website. I just saw the quotes about analogy.
I do similar things. Yeah, I'll get surface level like I guess surface level interpretations of certain ideas, and I'll start tying it into my own systems before I have
Right.
a well developed understanding of what the actual idea is.
Well, I've always thought it was crazy that people expect me to like have read something before I talk about it. I'm sitting here talking about Foucault and his ideas. Have you ever read Foucault, Eric? I I read that one page that one time.
That one
I
time, yeah.
got a card from it. I read that one page that one time. I got a card from it.
So let's
Are
go
you sure?
back into the in transferring the fluidity of the external world. Uh, into a concrete uh, condition or object of conditionality chain, right? Is that how you presented it?
Yeah, it's a turn-based world. So, in other words, our respective realities, each uh, each object as it falls and lands in our reality, which is to say, right now, this sentence and my raising my eyebrows and all the other stimuli that's coming at you from your computer screen is comprising an object that lands into your reality. Now, the nature of that object is such that it has some um, there's a quality to every object that you might call uh, link range, okay? Where because of the stuff that we're talking about, because I'm not talking about Helen Helen being mad when she spilled her coffee the other day, this has a much greater link range as an object probably than Helen spilled her coffee the other day. And it has to do with um, where your where your reality is occurring is determined by a confluence of things, including what we call cognitive function stack, which you might also think of as being our preferred terrain on which we build our on which from the preferred terrain on which we manifest as these various fractal realities. So the preferred terrain for us is this TI stuff, which means since everybody since they have to operate way more in our terrain than we have to operate in theirs. That's the truth. And so as far as personality type stuff goes, it's like feelers feelers have it rough and increasingly and ever more so because the the more fluid information is, the more people have the ability to communicate and these objects land in their realities, then what happens is every time an object lands in your reality, it has some impact on the ecosystem as a whole. It's not a closed system. It doesn't land in an unchanging ecosystem. The rules of the ecosystem change as objects land within the ecosystem. So, for example, now that you've had these words said to you by me, they land as objects in your reality. To the extent that they have good link range, they inform existing objects in your ecosystem, which in turn informs the rules of the ecosystem itself. And to the extent that you're somebody who metacognates a lot, that get ramped up. So what's happening right now in this very conversation, in this very moment, is I am saying words that are going to link backwards and forwards in your life for a long time to come, and that you're going to say, I'm still thinking about that now, and I'm 45 years old. Or I still return to those times and consider them and place a fair amount of weight upon them because those words still link in and resonate with new ideas because of where they are in the fractal splay, which is to say, even though it's infinite in all directions, it's not realized in all directions. And humanity's narratives are growing it out as we continue to move forward in time. We continue each reality, which is to say each human being is comprised of infinite fractal realities, potentially, but not infinite yet, and
Wait,
never gets
let
there
me
because we
let me clarify. So each individual has a different fractal universe depending on their own receptivity to certain external phenomena. Is that how it
they've
is?
got multiple. They've got multiple. And the thing is, we
Are they
we
experiencing the
we
multiple ones at the same time?
no, it's turn-based. That's the thing. That's the key thing. The objects are static representations of a fluid process, and it's got to be turn-based. And that's why, even though there are infinite potential fractal realities within each individual human being, you can only manifest a finite number of them in a given lifetime. And So the rest of them remain in a quantum superposition, unrealized, until you die, in which case I guess they disappear. Potentiality is unrealized.
Well, I guess we don't know for sure. I mean, they could be realized in um
That's why I
another.
said I guess,
Yeah,
Zach. I said I guess. Maybe I
yeah.
misunderstood.
But
How
I
long?
think I think it's
Dude,
interesting.
I have to, Zach, I have to go get more cigarettes. How long is this video right now?
25 minutes. We got way off
Okay,
topic.
let's stop. Let's take the top, and I gotta go get cigarettes. I'll come back, and then let's do another about 20-minute video, and then I gotta go to work.
All right, right on.
All right, cool.